Bienvenidos, worldwide fans of the planet's hottest entertainment with an edge. Jaime En Fuego here, and I welcome you once more to my namesake program, Enfuegotainment, another Rapido Fuego review, a Fresca one, because this one just came out technically in theaters last night, but the full rollout being here today on Friday, November 5th. We're talking the latest from Marvel Studios, Eternals.
We're Eternals. We came here 7,000 years ago to protect humans from the deviants.
Why didn't you guys help fight Thanos? Or any war, or all the other terrible things throughout history?
We were instructed not to interfere in any human conflicts unless deviants are involved.
By who?
And I kind of feel like Marvel has been trying their damnedest to regain some momentum, pick up the pieces after, ending Phase 3, all of the build up to Thanos and all that different stuff. And so, yes, Black Widow was okay. I felt a little bit better about Shang-Chi, but yet that still fell into so many of the Marvel tropes. And so this is one that most definitely, similar to like Ant-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy, a lot of audiences are going to go in completely blind, and I am one of those people. I am familiar with like the bigger names of Marvel, most notably, X-Men, Spider-Man, and then through the films I've learned a little bit more about, some lesser characters and whatnot, but yeah, I didn't know jack shizzle about the Eternals, man. And so they deliberately brought in some A-list talent because there are people just like me who are gonna be like, what the hell is Eternals, man, And so they also brought in a Academy Award-winning director. Now granted, they had her position long before she won an Oscar for Nomadland last year, and yet I can see from the vision and the scale and the scope of that film, despite being a very personal story, featuring Frances McDormand, who was terrific in that movie, it still had this like wide, just kind of scaling sort of, crossing the United States, and her and her DP did a fantastic job. And so I can see why Disney gave her the keys to the castle and we're like, just roll with it, 200 million plus budget, let's see what you do. And from a visual standpoint, this movie is nothing short of breathtaking. I saw it in IMAX and it was such a sight to behold. It was beautiful from start to finish and all of the different places that they go to. And this spans, thousands and thousands of years. And so you see all kinds of different areas of this beautiful planet of ours. And yet that is the high selling point of this, because I feel like it's a lot of convoluted mythology, script, especially a lot of the dialogue was hammy and derpy for me, and it just did not bring the kind of freshness and also rewatchability that I definitely felt from the first Guardians movie, the first Ant-Man movie. Those are still probably two of my favorites aside from Infinity War and like Civil War. This movie, it was beautiful and lots of eye candy obviously, but as far as a lot of the rest of it, I just did not dig. So not despising, but nonetheless this felt a little hollow to me at times, much more sight over substance. And so you have this group called Eternals, and they are created by this ultimate celestial being, and they are essentially sent because we have these deviants. And so essentially Eternals are supposed to make sure that those nasty monsters do not interfere with the progress of the human race on Earth, because there is a much bigger plan at play that obviously you find out later on in the film. And so yeah, they're there in Mesopotamia, 5000 BC, and the monsters look pretty dope. I gotta say, these deviants look pretty rad status. And so yeah, there's some cool battles within this, and the costuming and scenery and everything, and we follow them throughout history. So we meet a few of them present day, and then we keep doing the flashback stuff. And so the aforementioned A-listers, to try to get butts in seats for the casual people, and even those who have gone to all of the Marvel movies and yet don't really understand the lore of the comics, which I guess I would probably be lumped into that category too. That's why you bring on somebody like an Angelina Jolie or a Salma Hayek. And so yeah, these Eternals are all from the planet Olympia, and most of their names are in conjunction with Greek mythology. So you have Icarus, although he spells it a little bit differently. You've got Dina, which is the Angelina Jolie character. You've got Gilgamesh, you've got Sprite, and they all have, as you would anticipate, their own specific powers. Obviously, Dina being Angelina Jolie, she is the goddess of war, and then Icarus, you know, he has the power of flight, and yet others have creative ingenuity of as far as like building and you know, weaponry and stuff like that. And then you also have like your Flash equivalent. All of them have their own distinctive power, as you would expect for not only toy sales and stuff, but just to give them something besides their appearance, because they're all wearing similar uniforms and stuff. So it's not like a Avengers sort of situation where everybody has their own much more distinctive sort of look. The powers and the personalities are what are supposed to separate these people, but really, as much as I really enjoyed the actress who played Sprite, the actress who played Circe, who is essentially our main character in this, and she's great. You know, most of the acting in this is very solid. It just really falls back to kind of the convoluted and a little unbelievable mythology and the stuff that has been seen in a lot of instances before. Now, I would imagine that lots of fantasy that came after Jack Kirby created these characters was probably inspired by this, or even further back, the Greek mythology and stuff that this is borrowing from. But it just, aside from the Kumail Nanjiani, who is for me the standout in this, he is, as you would imagine, the comic relief. Him and his Bollywood like assistant director guy are so funny, steal every single scene that they are in, and so that's good. But man, Angelina, and I know this is how her character was written, she is pretty boring to me in this, and she's very, I mean, stern and stoic and all that, and I'm assuming, as I just said, that that's how she was supposed to be. But yeah, the vulnerability of the Sprite character and Icarus, and you know, and all of his hunkiness and whatever, but and Druig, he's a kid from Killing of a Sacred Deer, and I know he's been in a few other things. I think he was in Dunkirk, but yeah, it was like the characters were distinctive in their own right, and props to Disney for basically checking just about every box of representation here, whether it's race, whether it's body type, whether it's the fact that we have a deaf character, although we didn't have a blind character, you know, and also the fact that these characters are created by, I'm not even going to try to remember the name of the ultimate celestial because there's so many damn names in this, and trying to keep them all straight is just the one who basically created them and sent them. It is a little peculiar that Sprite would be made to be eternally a child, and that there would be a deaf character, and that there would be, I don't know, maybe this is me just reading into things a little bit too much, but there was obviously a distinctive decision for this ultimate celestial being that sent them to kind of, I guess, police the galaxy or the universe, so to speak. And so these creatures, they start showing back up in present day after they thought that they had killed them all back in, what, I think it was 1500-ish is when they thought that they had finally just taken them all out, and yet they weren't called back by this ultimate celestial person. And so they're like, well, I guess we're just gonna all go our separate ways. Some of us will pair up and head out, and others will just, you know, kind of bide their time and twiddle their thumbs, and they're like, when the hell do we get to go back to Olympia? And so yeah, this movie is not without its merits, and yet it's already been slogged by the critics, and I can kind of see why to a degree. This is definitely one that, for the like casual audience, people who go and see it, especially if you're into the more just check your brain in, you're not gonna analyze the fact that they're all talking in different accents, that in some actors' cases, like Angelina most notably, like there's scenes where there isn't much of like a Britishy sort of accent, and same with Icarus, same with a lot of these characters, Druig as well. There's points where it's very thick and very apparent, and then there's other points where it's not. And so I don't know if that's from them just where they settled and spent their time over those hundreds of years, because, you know, think about Madonna, where she married Guy Ritchie and was living in London for so damn long, and then she starts talking with an accent. I guess it does happen from time to time, and imagine the amount of time that these peeps have spent, especially with like 7,000 plus years on planet Earth. But yeah, it just, I don't know, this is obviously me grasping for straws and nitpicking a little bit, but just the modern conversations that they were having, you know, in BC times, I just kind of rolled my eyes at a little bit. And also the runtime, this definitely for me felt its runtime. Once again, these are all opinions of my own. If you love this or if you hated it, I'm obviously, as you can probably tell, a little bit more in the middle of the road about it, but the film did feel like an eternity. It felt like it took as long as the lives that these peeps had spent on Earth to get through this film, and there is very much an ebb and flow of cool action sequence, and then, you know, it's very much a origin story as far as assembling the team. Okay, yeah, we gotta find this person, we gotta find that person, this person, that person, whatever. And so it's relatively predictable in that regard, and there's something that happens with a character in the third act that I saw kind of coming a mile away, and so, yeah, once again, I'm not trying to spoil anything, but the runtime at, what, 2.5+ hours, like, that's the thing. Endgame and even Infinity War, well, it wasn't quite as long, those didn't feel their runtime. When stuff is well-paced, you don't just feel that sort of slog, like, at least in my estimation, I experienced with Eternals. And so I'm really curious with the fact that it's the first, at least as of this recording here on Friday, November 5th, it's the first rotten Marvel movie. I think the closest that we had before was Iron Man 2 or Iron Man 3. I can't recall specifics in that regard. But yeah, at least as of this review, it's certified rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, the be-all, end-all of, you know, critical sort of stuff. But I think the audience score is probably going to be significantly higher, but I don't think this is going to be like the sort of unexpected runaway hit that we had with the aforementioned Guardians and Ant-Man, and Guardians especially. I mean, damn, that just came out of nowhere, and that's really a lot of credit to James Gunn, because that was also an unproven property as far as the Marvel Universe goes that just caught everybody off guard, myself included. I adored that first Guardians film, and so Chloe Zhao, I did not doubt that she was going to make a awe-inspiring film as far as the visuals and everything. When you're working with, you know, Industrial Light and Magic and Skywalker Sound and all of the Disney money, you're gonna make something that is just a sight to behold. But aside from that, I struggle to even give this, because it's more like a 2.5 stars for me, and yet I don't give half stars here on Enfuegotainment, so I guess I will bump it up to 3 and say it's a bueno film, 3 out of 5 Fuego Fireballs. But it's really, I guess some of the musical choices, the fact that they played Pink Floyd Time in this at the beginning of the film, and it kind of gave me chills as they're handing off the weapon and they're jumping into the opening credits and stuff. That's what gets you that extra half star, Chloe Zhao and Eternals. So yeah, it's bueno, but it's barely bueno, so I will just leave it at that. But what were your thoughts on Eternals? Did you love it? Did you think that it was a pretty accurate representation if you're familiar with the source material? Because I have some friends that are diehard into, you know, the cosmic Kirby craziness that we got in the 60s from Marvel. And so yeah, if you're familiar with that, and I don't know, without spoiling it, there's obviously 2 post-credit scenes. There's one before we go to the full-on scroll, and then there's the other one which is at the end of that. I don't know what the hell they were teasing with either of those, because I'm not familiar with just what they hinted at or who said characters or whatever it might be. They definitely leave this wide open for another film, as you would expect. They want this to be the next kind of franchisey sort of thing, but there's a sneaking suspicion to me that thinks this might be the next Inhumans. Who the hell knows? We'll see. So, I extend the grande gracias. I've been Jaime En Fuego. You can find moi on all social media sectors, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, here on YouTube. In my relaunch of the channel here this past week, I've already done reviews of The Last Duel, The French Dispatch, and I also did a look at the Book of Boba Fett trailer for the upcoming Disney Plus series that is coming out in December. And so, yes, a like, a share, a subscribe means a hell of a lot, obviously. Over the course of this weekend, I'm probably going to be checking out Spencer, the new film starring Case 2, as none other than Princess Diana. It's already getting some controversial response, and so I'm probably going to check that out, as well as the new Tom Hanks film, which is on Apple TV+. So those are probably the next things that are coming, and maybe even a little bit of a live show on Sunday. We'll see if I have time. So I have been Fuego, y'all have been Rat Status, and until the Reel of Ka comes around once more, hasta luego, and amigos, constant readers and viewers alike, say thank you. Hopefully we have been well met and share more of this palaver about the theaters sooner rather than later. And until then, if you are feeling up to it, definitely head out and give Mr. Meos all your monies.